Karen, who's white, from Staten, New York, asks, do Middle Easterners find it offensive to be called Arabs or Arabs? Melanie, a 28-year-old white female from Chicago, replied, Arab is considered offensive because it is mispronounced. And remember, not all people in the Middle East are Arab. There are Persians, mainly in Iran, Palestinians, Kurd, it goes on and on. Calling someone from Iran Arab would really piss them off, especially because Arab is how some people in America pronounce it in a derogatory way. Said Teresa, 21 and white from Illinois, do not call someone an Arab if he is not an Arab. The best way is to find out what the person calls himself or find out his country of origin. 38-year-old Frank, who is Hispanic and from Los Angeles, said, is it apple or apple? Is it Italian or Italian? The A is short in apple, pretty simple. Danny, 45 and white from South Korea, said, if you're an Alabamian from Arab, Alabama, it's pronounced with a long A. Anne, 38 and a white female from Missouri, call the ones from Saudi Arabia Saudis, the ones from Iran Iranians, the ones for Jordan Jordanians. Get it? Here's what we found. Yes, Arab is pronounced Arab when it comes to the town of about 8,000 in Alabama. Outside there, though, that pronunciation distorts how the word is pronounced in Arabic, Ay-rab, said Nadir Hashemi, director of the Center for Middle East Studies at the University of Denver and author of Islam, Secularism, and Liberal Democracy, published on Oxford University Press. If you're being generous, you could forgive it and write it off as someone's accent, he said. But you also see Arab used by others and in Hollywood films that promote a prejudicial and racial narrative of Muslims. The term becomes associated with a particular offensive representation of Arabs. Instead, use Middle Easterner as an inclusive catch-all that doesn't invoke religion when describing people from that region, he said. Don't default to Muslim, or worse yet, Muslim, either, because Jews, Christians, and others make their home in the Mideast too. Call someone from Iran an Arab, and there's a good chance they'll be miffed, as most are not Arab, Hashemi said. Not only that, but there are ethnic tensions between Iranians and Arabs that go back thousands of years and are now exploited to perpetuate political differences. Messy stuff, politics. He goes on, overall, some people are trying to be offensive when they mispronounce or are showing intellectual laziness from something fossilized in their mind. Hashemi continues, the goal in a changing world should be to find the pronunciation people prefer, to rise to the occasion. When you get it correct phonetically, it can create a very positive impression that you've gone the extra step. Here's a question from 37-year-old Laura from Baltimore. I grew up in a middle-class community, and when I encountered police, they were always polite and friendly. Later, I lived in a poor area. I saw police often, and in interactions with them, even the most innocuous, they were consistently insulting and threatening. I'd like to ask law enforcement officers to explain this difference in attitude. M.D., age 32, from Houston, replied, "When I patrolled in a mostly blue-collar urban environment, I lowered my vocabulary and mannerisms. A police officer must often get people to do things they ordinarily would not. If I want a subject to stop, turn, and place his hands on his head, I don't want that lost in translation. If he balks, my voice and mannerisms will become more demonstrative and generally include foul language. This usually works because the person respects strength. Sir, please stop walking and place your hands on your head is only an invitation to violence if said that way." D., a 46-year-old male from Detroit, said, "Unfortunately, police have fears and prejudices based on their experiences in a given environment. They perceive the threat of their surroundings in much the same way you might. Do you behave in the same manner in a community with drugs and violence that you do in a white suburb?" Here's from Anonymous from Michigan. "There are more bad people in poorer neighborhoods. They are hostile to all types of authority. Most do not respect or respond to cops unless the cop swears or does something else to establish his authority." Here's what we found. Yes, police are more threatening and aggressive in poor, high-crime areas, according to years of studies of citizen complaints and police officers' own reports. Police expert Wesley Skogan at skogan.org, that's SKOGAN.org, who is a professor in Northwestern University's Institute for Policy Research, and also the author of such books as Community Policing, Can It Work? And Police and Community in Chicago, told us that cops want to gain the upper hand from the get-go. If police perceive danger to self or being unable to control an interaction, they feel they must be aggressive right out of the box, he said. They want the public always responding to them, not the other way around. A prime goal is to get compliance rapidly before a crowd gathers, he continued. If a crowd starts yelling, they won't be silent, so you want to move it along quickly, he said. I'm not saying it's the smartest or right thing. And he added there are often better ways to manage encounters, as training shows. Show a little respect. Let the person retain a shred of dignity, instead of, "Shut your mouth, motherfucker, and up against the wall," Skogan said. The problem is that rookies, often assigned the nastier beats in town, hear veterans' tales and assume a threatening style works best in certain situations, he said. But research shows verbal abuse or unsnapping a gun's holster just create more suspicion and lack of trust. Be firm but professional, Skogan said, and don't pretend to talk the language of the street. For more about this pioneering, decades-long cross-cultural project, visit youdaretoask.com.